You're set to go.
Okay, very good. I want to welcome everybody to the Town Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for July 8th, 2020. And if everybody could rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, for liberty and justice for all. Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Claffey? Commissioner Fox?
Here.
Commissioner Havens?
Here.
Commissioner Linares?
Here.
Commissioner Sobieski?
Here.
Commissioner Gill? Commissioner Woods?
Here.
Commissioner Braverman?
Here.
Commissioner Haggerty?
Here.
Chairman Payne?
Here.
Okay, and Commissioner Claffey, are you here? No. Okay, and Commissioner Gill? No.
Here.
Oh, Gill, thank you. Okay.
Okay, approval of the agenda. Do we have any changes?
Yeah, well, possibly, Mr. Chairman. As I think the commission knows, I got an email from Amy Berube a couple of days ago asking to have her permit renewed, which is part of the process. So I discussed it with the chairman, and we agreed we could add it to the agenda tonight. But I contacted Ms. Berube about this and asked her if that was too fast or if that was okay with her, and I never got a reply. So I don't think she's in the room. James, can you tell me if Amy Berube is listening?
I don't have her showing on here.
Okay, then, Mr. Chairman, I'll let you decide whether you want to proceed without her or postpone it to the next meeting.
I'll ask the commissioners if there's no objections. I just soon put it on the agenda. I believe it's a very positive results that the town planner has been telling me about, that there's been no problems. So we could get this approved and moved on and out of the way for. Does anybody have any objections to it being put on the agenda?
Not I. No.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
then I suggest we add under new business, item B. This will be petition 25-20, renewal of special permit number 3417 at 172 Indian Hill Road. Amy Berube applicant.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Craig. Okay, we're at public participation now. If there's anybody in the public that would like to speak, if you could raise your hand, James will get you on.
We do have two individuals. Barbara is on, I can see, and another individual who doesn't have a name showing. Nobody's
Okay.
raised their hands as of yet.
Okay, very good. If they do have something, then they just interrupt me. Thank you.
Actually, one of your panelists who is on tonight has actually raised their hands.
Okay.
If you'd like to allow them.
Let them go right ahead.
Go ahead, Mr. DeFrancisco.
Okay, I just didn't know if it was my turn or not, so I didn't want to get bypassed. I've never done one of these before. I'm on the agenda for later on, so I didn't know if this was the time, but I just wanted to make sure you knew I was here and ready to speak.
Very good. Thank you very much for coming in with us.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Okay, if there's no other public comment, we're going to go to our zoning enforcement officer report.
Okay, Andrew is texting me on his phone. He's apparently having technical difficulties logging in. James, is he in the public room?
Only if his number is 648 or the three endings.
Okay, I think he can hear what you just said. Let me see if he texts me that yes, that's him. I'm not getting a reply. Well, Mr. Chairman, I suggest we pass over the ZEO report, and then as Andrew works out his technical problems, and we can go to the ZEO report, if that's okay.
That's fine. Okay.
So he can hear us, Craig?
I believe so.
Okay, if he wants to give me a call in the office, 665-8550, I'll work him through.
665-8550.
Correct.
Okay, I'll text that to him right now. He just texted me. He said his phone is cutting out and his computer is freezing.
No problem. We'll just move that to the next meeting. Why don't we move on to the remarks from commissioners? Do any commissioners have anything?
Just,
Anybody?
yeah, Tom Gill.
Hi, Tom.
Just a thought, we were talking about that noise complaint type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that site, as far as the dogs, might be something that we, put on a list of, places that might be potential spots that, we might have some noise problems with.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Okay, if there's no other commissioners' comments, we'll go right into the noise ordinance. We put this up and I asked Craig to try to get a report on it, on how things are going and whether or not we get a lot of complaints or not, or whether or not anything is needed. Craig, do you have any information for us?
Yes, I spoke to Chief Clark the other day about this. And what he told me was well, first of all, the town does not have the machine to check decibel readings. So we don't have that capability. But he went on to say that when they do get complaints about noise, he said the vast majority of them are parties, are people playing loud music that disturbing the neighbors. That's where he gets most of their complaints. And in fact, they've gotten. He was kind of surprised. He ran a check of his database as we were talking, and he was a little surprised when he saw that there already, as of halfway through the year, there'd been about 140 complaints about noise. But as he's looking at them as we were talking, he said the vast majority were people just complaining that the neighbors are noisy. So what he does is he'll send a patrolman out, and the patrolman will ask the offending neighbor to just please turn it down. And most of the time, the neighbor will do that. On the rare occasion where a neighbor just refuses to be a good neighbor, the police do have the authority to just issue a ticket for creating a disturbance. So the chief feels that he has the tools that he needs to deal with any neighbor that's not being a decent neighbor about not being too noisy.
Well, that's great to hear. Do any of the commissioners have any questions for our town planner?
Commissioner Payne, Stanley Sobieski.
Go ahead.
If I remember correctly, I was listening to Commissioner Gill saying that maybe you should put that dog area as a place to watch. I don't think we've had any issues with noise complaints in that area even before the doggy daycare was approved. I would not want to see, it's only my opinion, I would not want to see this commission trying to target an area. That's all I'm saying.
Thank you, Commissioner. Yeah, I was going to bring that up when we talked about Amy's place later, but there has been no complaints over there in the time period that she's been open. I think there was originally, but it was approved, and later on in the meeting, you'll find a report from Craig that's be pretty positive on it. It sounds to me that the chief has everything under control with this noise ordinance.
Commissioner Fox has a question.
I beg your pardon?
Commissioner Fox has his hand raised.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Commissioner Fox.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wish somebody would explain to me why we are even discussing the noise ordinance. I don't think it's within our purview at all to worry about complaints or whatever on the ordinance. As a matter of fact, I know the town council has discussed this within the last year or so, and if you'd like, I would like to see the town clerk try to do some research, find that
Well,
meeting.
Commissioner
and let us
Fox,
know
if
what
I-
happened.
Commissioner Fox, if you don't mind, I'd like to explain. We put it on the agenda because one of the commissioners asked to put it on the agenda so we could just do a quick review. And this gave me an opportunity to have the town planner get an update from the chief. And, it does come in play with the town planning and zoning once in a while on applications such as Firestone or other things. But it appears here that everything is under control with the police department, and they're doing a wonderful job with trying to control the things. And you're absolutely right, Commissioner Fox. The noise ordinance is under the council control. You're absolutely correct about that. And nobody was intending to make any changes to the noise ordinance.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Fox. Is there any other questions on the noise ordinance? Okay, if there's nothing else, we'll move on to the next thing. Is the zoning enforcement officer ready possibly, Craig? Or James?
He hasn't contacted me yet, and I don't see him
Okay.
on the attendee side either yet.
All right, no problem. We'll move to the public hearing. Our next thing, Craig, could you please read the procedures for the public hearing?
Yes.
Hello, sir.
Sorry, I thought I had it, but I have it now.
Okay.
Okay. Procedures for public hearings. The order of proceedings at public hearings shall be as follows. A, convening by chairman. B, reading of the notice by the commission secretary or a commissioner designated by the chairman to act in his stead. C, identification and location of the property involved by the town planner. D, the statement of the issue to be considered by the chairman or the town planner. E, presentation by applicant limited to 20 minutes unless a specific extension is granted by the chair. F, persons wishing to speak in favor of the application limited to 2 minutes per person. G, persons wishing to speak in opposition to the application limited to 3 minutes per person. H, rebuttal by the applicant limited to 5 minutes total. I, rebuttal by the opposition limited to 5 minutes total. During a public hearing, it shall be within the discretion of the chairman whether the time limitations should be varied slightly, provided the commission consents to any such variance. In no case shall an extension be for more than 20% of the allotment indicated above, or 1 minute, whichever is greater.
Okay, thank you very much, Craig. Could you fill us in with a little
Sure.
report for the commission on where we stand? And I know that, I don't think Anthony's on, is Anthony on yet, or?
He's calling James now.
I do have him on the attendee side, so I can unmute him if you'd like to have him in.
I'm sure we'll have questions later, and he's gonna want to comment on stuff. No problem. Thank you. I just wanted to check if he was on. Craig, if you could give us an update on this, please.
Right. We, at the last meeting, one of the commissioners asked if we could also make a provision for winery. So I did some research, and it's in my report. Wineries, well, actually, let me just read my report. It's just a couple paragraphs. Okay, so at the public hearing on June 24th, it was suggested by a commissioner that the regulations also allow wineries. Wineries typically are operated on the same premises as a vineyard, but not necessarily. There can be a vineyard that grows grapes, but does not process them into wine. And there can be a winery that processes grapes that were grown somewhere else. So while vineyards and wineries are related, they need to be treated separately. Farm, in quotes, is defined in the Newton zoning regulations as follows. Farm, a parcel of land containing not less than 5 acres, used for raising crops and or farm stock and livestock and poultry, and including dairy farms, plant nurseries, and greenhouses. I think it's fair to say that a vineyard is a type of farm, so no change is needed here. In Newington, farms are allowed by right on at least 5 acres in any zone, commercial or residential. If somebody wants to operate a vineyard and they have 5 acres, they could start a vineyard today. However, the processing of grapes into wine is an industrial activity that I don't think TPZ would want to be allowed by right in a residential zone. So if a winery is something that TPZ thinks would be acceptable in a residential zone under the right circumstances, TPZ should add winery to the list of special permit activities allowed in residential zones. In commercial zones, winery could be by right or by special permit, whichever TPZ prefers. So that's my finding about whether we should add winery to the regulation or not.
Okay, I'll open it up to commissioners' comments, and I think, Anthony, are you on the line?
I have him unmuted, but for some reason he's not speaking.
Hi, Anthony, are you there? Is there any other commissioners that have any comments on this?
Commissioner Sobieski, Commissioner Payne, or Chairman Payne rather, I was under the assumption we were going to have this go to a public hearing, not through the Zoom. I think myself and Commissioner Fox had asked for that. This is a major, this is a major change, and I know we're saying that these Zoom meetings are public hearings. However, I understand some of the neighbors may have sent letters in to Craig Minor about this, and they do want a public hearing. Thank you.
Well, this is a public hearing, Commissioner, and if there is letters, if Craig has letters, then he has to read it into the meeting when it comes public. When we get to the, Craig, do you have letters coming in?
I have an email that I received this afternoon that I will read.
Okay, very good. Thank you. All right, is there any comments from the commissioners?
Yeah,
This is-
Tom Gale,
Yes, Tom.
Commissioner. The only cautionary I see is if we put a winery into a residential, then what's to say that they're not going to want a pub restaurant in that same place?
I don't think we're proposing to put it in a residential. I think Commissioner Claffey was proposing to have it in the business zones and come down to the commercial and PD and BT zones, but nothing in the resident. None of these things are proposed in the residential zone. Is that correct, Craig?
Well, that was the point I wanted to make. A vineyard, somebody can grow a vineyard now in a residential zone, but they wouldn't be able to process the wine as a winery.
They couldn't have a winery in a residential zone, but if they wanted to grow it and they own 5 acres of land, then they have by right to do that.
Yes.
Does all the commissioners understand that?
Yes. So far.
Okay.
Commissioner Fox.
Yes, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Getting back to what Commissioner Sobieski said, I have to agree. This is a big change. We already have had some comments. I know one from at the last meeting from a Francis Avenue resident, and so I know we've got this down as a public hearing. I'm hoping that we can agree to keep this public hearing open as long as we can, or at least until we can have face-to-face meetings, even if it's during the pandemic and we have to just use the auditorium, spread out, and do something like that. Meetings have been done that way. Because I don't think as while we're doing these Zoom meetings, we would get the public participation we would like, and what the public that we do get, would not have, really, they wouldn't be really ready or willing to actually come up and really speak their mind as they would want to, so I would like to wait.
Well, we're in a public hearing. This has been a public hearing. We've had this open for quite a few meetings. I think, Craig, how many meetings has this been open that we've been talking about this?
This is the third.
Third
as a public hearing.
third public hearing, and now all of a sudden you want me not to have the public hearing anymore until we can have it in person.
No, this is not all of a sudden, Dominic. We've been going through the Blue Week things, and as far as getting the text amendments done, the wording itself done. But when it came to having a public hearing at this meeting, having gotten a draft suggested motion, that's what set my mind in motion. And I think Commissioner Sobieski will agree with me that I think that we should have a face-to-face meeting before we close this.
Well, I disagree with you.
That's my opinion.
Yeah, I appreciate your opinion, but I disagree with you. We've had this open. This has been a public hearing for the last 3 meetings, and we've continued it. And so we've had plenty of opportunity for people to comment. And this is something that I think is good for the town. It offers some flexibility for some new types of businesses. And if I'm not mistaken, it's all by special exception. So they would have to come in again, and you would have to approve it. Am I correct, Craig?
Yes.
Okay. Is there any other commissioners that would like? Commissioner Sobieski, go ahead.
I like I said, I still think, we could put it in temporarily, and then we should have a face-to-face meeting. I mean, I don't know. I mean, if Greg has got one letter or several letters, I don't know how many he's got. I think people are generally concerned, and not everybody has access to Zoom. That's my point. That's all I'm saying, Tom.
Any other commissioners have any comments?
Yeah, Tom Gill.
Yes, Tom.
Yeah, we've been at this for, I think, 4 meetings all total. And, we've had 3 with public participation. And, there hasn't been any public that's come forward, right? And if we have one email right now, that's going to be read, and see what happens from there.
I think you're correct, Commissioner Gill, and I'd hate to prejudge anything during a public hearing. I'd like to hear if there's any emails or other things, and nobody's closed the public hearing yet. We're just going through the process. Commissioner Lenars, would you like to say something?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I understand what Commissioner Fox and Commissioner Sobieski, would like to do in terms of keeping it open. I don't agree. This has been here for 3 meetings. Of course, I would love to hear from the people, but to be honest, we don't know if the people are going to come out in droves or if there's going to be one email, and we don't actually know if they're going to come out and speak for it or against it. But to me, to be honest, I always want to listen to the public and their concerns, but this is not something where I agree a brewery should go into or disagree or in favor of one or a fan of one. Does it meet the regulations? Is it allowed to go in the zones that we are proposing that they go into or be allowed to go into if we get such an application? And just to maybe comfort Commissioner Fox and Commissioner Sobieski that none of this can be approved per se if one does come in front of us without special exception, without having another crack at it then. And if I would speak for them, I think their utmost concern is to protect the residents of the town, which all of us do and want to do. We have had this for 3 meetings. There's nothing pressing whether it should go away or stay. But how long could we possibly drag it out with the unknown of when are we going to get in front of a table in front of the public? The people have had a chance, and I would venture to say that most of them probably don't even know these things are going on. And I can understand their sentiments about that. But to wait on this, to table it and to keep it open, I would be against. The language that Craig drew up is excellent in terms of the descriptions. But I just can't stress it enough that most importantly, it's the special exception that they have to abide by, and they have to come in front of the commission, explaining everything, residents included and cared for with their petition. I would be in favor of moving forward on this. I don't think it's a pressing issue one way for or against or the other. I think it meets the regulations in the proposed areas within the town. So that would be my feeling.
Thank you, Commissioner Lenars. You know, we just, Commissioner Haggerty,
Yeah, I would add, I don't think that the public's input on our decision-making should ever be minimized. Having said that, this is our third meeting, and who knows when we're going to get back into the conference room. And, if we're not going to be able to conduct business or make decisions unless we're face-to-face, then why are we having these meetings? We're just going to talk about them, but not really act on them.
yeah, great points there, Commissioner Haggerty. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Commissioner Woods.
I'm actually in favor of adding the wineries by special permit, not to residential zones, but to the other zones that we're looking to do this. And in light of the town manager's letter to us, I think that this is something that he's looking for us to do. There's no need to hold this up. There isn't a big outcry. We did hear from one or two people that have some concerns. And if in fact we do get an application in those areas, we can address those concerns at that point. But we don't even have any applications in front of us yet. And again, I would like to get this moving forward so that we could get our shingle back up that Newington's open. And we're willing to do business in light of COVID, and we'll do it on Zoom. We'll do it wherever we have to. I also don't think anytime in the near future, we will have a public meeting that will allow 25, 30, 40, 50 people. I think that's way off, and I don't see any reason to delay this.
Thank you, Commissioner Woods.
Mr. Chairman,
Just a minute, please. Commissioner Claffey, I think, was trying to get in. Commissioner, Andrew. Andrew Armstrong.
Yep.
Yes,
Can you hear me?
yes, we can.
All right, great. Thank you. Sorry about the technical difficulties I'm having.
Okay. We're Andrew, we're
Yeah.
in the middle of the public hearing, and what we did was we postponed the zoning enforcement to the next meeting.
Okay, sounds
Okay.
good.
So we'll,
All right, thank you.
We'll talk with you in the next meeting. Thank you very much, Andrew.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
yep. Commissioner Claffey? Okay, I think, everybody's got some good points. This is a public hearing. We're gonna continue with the public hearing. We do have a letter here, where, the town planner wants us to try to create opportunity and to be more business friendly and, to review our regulations and make things easier for business, for the town, so we can grow the grand list. I think this gives an opportunity for some small businesses that are thinking out of the box, that might group it with possibly cigar smoking or something, or who knows. And it could be a nice positive thing for the, some of our business areas. So I think we should continue with talking about this. Commissioner Fox had something, or?
yeah. Thank
Go
you,
ahead.
Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just one more comment. I agree. It's a good text amendments. They're all good. I agree. Wineries, no wineries in a residential zone, and I bow to the majority. Do what we have to do. You're right. But I just have the feeling that we're not getting the public participation, mainly because we don't have face-to-face. But Commissioner Woods and the rest, are right. Let's get this done.
Okay, and the public will have a say if something comes in. But let's open it up to the public right now, since we've been talking. Is there anybody from the public, James, that would like to speak? And maybe Craig could read the email that he received.
At this point, we do have 4 people on. If they'd like to speak in it, they can use the raise hand in the participants window or *9 on their telephones.
Okay. Anybody that'd like to speak in favor of this application? Please raise your hand or dial in. Or let's make it easy. Anybody would like to speak at all? Either in favor or against this? Craig, while we're waiting for the public, in case they want to call in, could you read the email
Yes.
you received?
Yes, this is from Margaret Bannock at 145 Star Avenue. Due to the government restrictions on gathering, town residents have not had opportunities to gather and to learn what proposals have been occurring in town. I would like to suggest that the commissioners contact newspapers, Newington Life and Hartford Current, and New Britain reporters to inform them of the proposed zoning language. Please explain that this change would allow the possibility of someone to ask for a permit to open a brewery in any business area in town. I suggest the meeting decision and vote be postponed until the residents have more information and can participate in a normal way other than Zoom. Residents are not all familiar with how to Zoom or may not even have computers. We need to be careful to include the participation of all residents, and this proposal has no urgency to be decided at this time. Thank you for your consideration.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody, James, that would like to speak from the public?
Nobody so far. You know what? I'm going to put the public participation information back up for them for just a moment if anybody needs the directions or a phone number.
All right, let's,
No, nobody at this time.
thank you very much, James. So we have this public hearing. I would recommend that we close the public hearing and move it to old business.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, if you could hold off for 1 second, Commissioner Woods. Craig, there was some questions that Anthony wanted clarified. Do we have those things addressed in this?
Right, I'll speak to that. Yeah, commissioners, what Chairman Payne is alluding to is I got an email from Commissioner Claffey this afternoon, and he questioned why I'll call it the name of this amendment, only lists the chapters that are being amended and not every section within the chapter. And my response was, that's the way we do it so that the name of an amendment doesn't get to be incredibly long and doesn't get confusing. But if the commission is ready to approve it, we can certainly, and I've already drafted this, draft in the motion to approve every chapter and there's 6 of them, that there've been some changes to.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to make sure that we're all set on that. Commissioner Woods you were going to do a motion?
Yeah, I make a motion to close the public hearing, move this to old business for action.
Thank you, Commissioner Woods. Is there a second?
Second, Commissioner Havens.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any objection? Okay, it moves to old business unanimously. The next public hearing that we have up on the agenda is petition 20-20 zoning text amendment, section 6.21E and 9.2 regarding digital menu board signs. The McDonald's Real Estate Company, owner and applicant Chris Russo, 2507 Post Road, Southport, Connecticut. Contact. Is the applicant on?
Yes, I am, Chairman. My name is Raymond Rizzio, and my partner Chris Russo is here along with me. So we are present and ready to proceed when you're ready for us to commence our presentation.
Oh, sure. I think if you'd like, you could start with a small presentation. I don't think I think everybody understands what we're trying to do, but why don't you go briefly over it, and then we'll go to a town planner's report.
That's great. So Chairman, I've represented McDonald's probably for the last 25 years. McDonald's is a you know, as you know, one of the largest, more fast food or restaurant business in the world. And they constantly seek to improve service, timeliness, and safety for their customers. And when we first started doing McDonald's work, I think about 20% of their business was through the drive-through. You have an older McDonald's here, and as business proceeded to before COVID, it was basically up to 70% of the business, and that's what led to the evolution of the double drive-through, so that things can continue to move quickly in situations where you have restaurants that are built primarily for sit down. It would the effectiveness and the expediting of the cars is important, so that cars in the drive-through don't block parked cars and the whole thing. So now COVID hits, and now we go to 100% drive-through. And McDonald's, as I said, always looking to improve on efficiencies. They have a whole McDonald's University out in Chicago that does nothing but study these drive-throughs. It's incredible. They have a team of engineers that go through it. And one of the things they've decided that they think is important to do is to upgrade the ability to educate the consumer while they're in line, make sure that the orders are the orders that the people are ordering are the orders that we're going to be handed to them at the delivery window, and then make sure that that the people can make these decisions quickly, so that normally with McDonald's, from the time you order to the time you get your food, they strive to have you out no longer than 180 seconds. So in doing this, what happens is we've been doing this throughout the state of Connecticut. We recently were approved in Simsbury, Greenwich, Stamford. We're going all throughout trying to upgrade these signs. And in doing this, what we're trying to do is, believe it or not, ends up with a reduction in the amount of signage. We have what's called pre-order boards, and then we also have digital menu boards. Now, what's happened, and we've encountered this in not only Newington, but other towns, we've had to do text amendments, is that towns are very typically strict on signage. And the idea is they don't want billboards all over, flying all over. And Newington especially, their sign ordinance is very all-encompassing. It doesn't really distinguish between, this is almost really like more a directional sign than an advertising sign. They're not pointed to the road, they're pointing directly to the driver. They educate the driver so when they order, they can move things along. Different than if we were advertising McDonald's sales for people driving along on Berlin Turnpike. These signs don't even face the Berlin Turnpike. They face, in effect, the rear of the property and the drivers that are in line. So the only people reading these signs are already on the property, and it's an educational process. The other thing is so you're right now, currently, you prohibit any kind of digital signs except for two, and illuminated signs except for two exceptions. They are time and temperature signs, and then as number 1 and 2, fuel product price signs are the two under section 6.2.1E are the only exceptions. We're coming before you for a text amendment to add a third exception to this rule. And that would be for digital menu board signs. And we would add a section that would say digital menu board signs which are located at and utilized in connection with an accessory drive-through lane. One digital menu board sign shall be permitted for each accessory drive-through lane limited to 50 square feet, as well as one digital pre-browse menu board sign per permitted principal use on the premises limited to 15 square feet. What's important about that definition, and I think it's important for this commission to know that there's no ulterior motives, there's not going to be any unforeseen consequences or misuse of the sign. It has to be in connection with an accessory drive-through lane. The digital menu is, you only have one per drive-through lane. And it has to be located and utilized in connection with those drive-through lanes. So it's not like somebody can turn it around and use it to advertise along Berlin Turnpike or any other road. What this allows us to do is we have a pre-order sign. The pre-order sign basically is the customer sitting there and waiting in the double drive-through. As they approach that, they have a pre-order sign which tells them what specials are available, what the special pricing is, so that when they get to the order sign, they basically have formulated in their mind the kind of food that they're ordering, and they don't have to ask, is there any specials? You know, is there any special dollar meals, things like that. They've already have that knowledge by the time they get to the sign. Then when they move to the menu board sign, what we've been able to do, the old menu boards had 4 panels. They had, you know, specials, then they had lunch, dinner, and breakfast menus. By being able to reduce our signage and get these illuminated signs, we can allow them to rotate a couple times a day. So when the breakfast menu's up, only the breakfast menu's up. Then it comes to lunchtime, the board will automatically move to a lunch menu. And then you'll have an automatically removal to a dinner menu. And it allows us to cut our signs almost, size of the signs almost in half. The other thing it allows us to do is so that it will print your order on the sign as you're ordering it. So for example, if you said, you know, I want 2 Big Macs, a large order of fries, and a Diet Coke, it doesn't come up as 3/4 pounders, 2 French fries, and a medium Diet Dr. Pepper. And you don't find out about that until you get to pick up your food, where it's already too late and causes a backup. So basically, you'll be able to review and approve your order at the time you make that order. And we felt that that's very important to push the cars through and continue to efficiently process our customers. So the two text amendments we are having is, one, to make this an exception to your rule with regard to illuminated signs. And number 2, to also add the definition of a sign digital menu board, because we use the sign digital menu board in the regulation. In talking with staff, we felt it was also important to make a definition for that. And that would be added to your section 9.2. And the definition will be: a sign is a digital menu board is a sign which is located and utilized in connection with an accessory drive-through lane, which has intermittent illumination by mechanical or digital control that will rotate images to display products or items connected to the principal use on the premises. What's important about that? Directly related to the use, directly related to an accessory lane, and only can advertise or can show products that are being sold on site. So you don't have to worry about this turning into, to another advertisement for another use. So everything is really, and we spend a lot of time with staff on that, making sure that it's designed only to service the customers, that it's not going to serve as a distraction to passersby on the roads, and that it's only in connection with the as an accessory use in an accessory drive-through in those particular lanes. I'm very well versed in this. I'd be happy to answer any questions. It also reduces light pollution, because when you don't have illuminated signs, what they typically had was signs that were lit from the ground. And those, believe it or not, throw off much more light than you would have from a rear-mounted, inside-mounted, digital sign, because it only lights within the board, and basically the light is controlled so that we have shown that we have no light that emits off the premises.
Very good. Thank you very much for that report. I greatly appreciate it. I think this is something that appears to be very clean, and we're going to do is I'm going to get a small report a short report from our town planner, and then I'm going to open it up to the public. Craig?
Right. Well, my report just summarized everything that Mr. Russo just said.
Okay.
And
I just wanted to give you an opportunity to see if there was anything else you wanted to add.
Nope, that's all.
Thank you very much. Okay. I'm going to hold off on commissioners' comments until after we hear from the public. Is there anybody from the public that would like to talk about this? Craig, we haven't received any emails or anything on this?
That's correct.
Thank you. James, you let me know if somebody wants to speak.
We have one individual on the panelist side, Mr. DeFrancisco.
Okay.
Hi, I wasn't aware of this till tonight. This all sounds very reasonable to me, and as someone who's been stuck in drive-throughs before, I think this would be very customer-friendly, if nothing else. So good luck with it, Chris.
Thank you very much. Okay, if there's no other public, I'll go to commissioners' comments.
I do have one individual who has raised her hand, so I'll unmute her.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I just want to say I had sent an email today to Craig Minor that didn't get read.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Cara Santoro, 93 Francis Avenue.
We did read that in, Craig, right?
No, a different person.
I think you read someone else's.
Okay. Do you have that, Craig? Could you read that or?
I'm looking for it now.
Thank you. Well, I'm sorry for that. Was that for this or?
Well, it was about the I-zoning change, which obviously is a little late because you guys pushed it through anyway. So it didn't seem to matter that people wanted to have a public hearing and get this postponed because as far as I can figure out, you've already had it decided and didn't matter what the public said. So no doubt the email didn't get read.
Well, I'm not sure why Craig didn't read the email. He was supposed to read the emails. He missed one. He read another one. That was a public hearing that was left open for 3 public hearings. All it does is give an opportunity for additional small businesses to come in, and you will have a bite of the apple if a business decides to try to open such a business.
Right, but it's already been passed as long as they get a permit, which we know is going to happen. So
no, it's not done deal, ma'am. Okay, and you will if somebody is interested, if we approve that and somebody is interested in running a business and opening up a small business, a small brewery, they have to come in and pass the zoning regulations for that use. And it would be a public hearing and you'll have opportunity to discuss that at the time, okay?
right, but the issue was people wanted it held off till the public was really aware of this. And it's for some reason never got postponed until after the COVID stuff is over and we can meet with people in the auditorium.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry, but that's already gone past. So I thank you for your comments though, and I'm going to ask Craig Minor to read his that email into our minutes as soon as we come back to that. Thank you. Is there anybody else from the public that would like to talk about the petition 20-20, the menu board? If there's no other public commissioners, do you have any other comments? I think this is something that we should move to old business and act on tonight. I think this is really going to improve the efficiency. I don't see any drawbacks at being a detriment to the residential zones or the Berlin Turnpike. I know that the changes that they've recently made there at the McDonald's with the drive-throughs, originally I was a little skeptical, but they have really improved the traffic going through there. I have noticed a difference. And I have noticed where they have their windows have picked up, and I'm sure all the drive-through windows have picked up. And this will help a lot of other businesses besides McDonald's. Do any
Has his hand raised.
commissioners? Yes, James.
Commissioner Fox has his hand raised.
Commissioner Fox?
You're muted, Mr. Fox.
Commissioner
muted.
Fox? Is there any other commissioners have anything?
I'm sorry, I was still muted.
Okay, Commissioner Fox.
All right, yeah, just real quickly, I have no problem with this application, and in the future, I think we can look forward to more drive-through restaurants taking advantage of this, and as long as it does not interfere with nearby residents and does not inconvenience them, I agree.
Thank you, Commissioner Fox. Any other commissioners' comments?
Commissioner Sobieski, I think it's a good idea. As long as the residents aren't bothered by the light at night. It's a fine idea with me.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other commissioners? And if you have any other comments, if not, I would ask a commissioner to close this public hearing and move it to old business for action.
Commissioner
So
Sobieski,
moved, Commissioner
I make a
Fox.
motion- I make a motion to close this hearing and move it to old business.
All right, so Commissioner Sobieski's made the motion, and was that Commissioner Fox that seconded it?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Any comments, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So we pass it unanimously to move that to old business for action. The next public hearing is petition 23-20, special permit, section 3.17.7, Children's Theater Organization at 136 Day Street LLC, owner, Newington Children's Theater Company, applicant Christy Francisco, 255 Beacon Street, Newington, Connecticut, contact. Okay. The applicant can take the floor right now. How about if we go to the town planner and have a small report first? Craig?
Yes. As everybody probably knows, the Newington Children's Theater has been on Mountain Road for several decades, and it's in the industrial zone, and they'd like to move to Day Street. So I've been talking about this with the applicants for quite a while to make sure that their activity, as they hope to grow it in the near future, that there will be enough parking for the final product. And I'm pleased to say, as I put in my report, yes, each of the three phases that they've talked about, there will be sufficient parking for each of them. But I do want to discuss those phases a little bit, either after the applicant makes his presentation or now, if the chairman would prefer.
Yeah, go ahead if you want.
Okay, well, phase one is pretty much just office space, and there are enough designated parking, painted parking spaces in front of the building for phase one. Phase two, however, involves some additional rooms, and there is enough room, parking space in the back of the property, but those parking spaces are not striped. It's just a parking lot. So if approved, I would recommend that a condition be that parking spaces be painted in the back. And then phase three involves a theater. And as the applicants stated in their narrative, as much as a theater will draw a lot of people and require a lot of parking, there won't be anything else going on in the building at that time. And the landlord has agreed, and it's in their lease, that for evening events, as long as the Children's Theater gives the landlord notice, there will be sufficient parking made available elsewhere on the site. And there is enough parking on the whole site for their third use, for the theater in the back. So I don't see any problem with this application.
Okay, thank you. The applicant is there, Chris?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Craig. Thank you to all the commissioners for considering this. I mean, a lot of what I have to say is in Craig's report. I just wanted to give a little bit of background. By the way, I'm the president of the board of directors of the Newington Children's Theater Company, so that's why you're hearing from me. The Children's Theater has been a part of town since 1963, so we're in our 57th season, and we've been at North Mountain Road for the last 16 years. And it became apparent several years ago that we were just outgrowing the space. So we've been trying for several years now to find another location, really hoping to stay in town, seeing as we have such roots in this community. And we were very fortunate to come across the property owner on Day Street, who I think if you look at our lease, history will show that she was more than reasonable in trying to do whatever she could to make this work for us. And the phases, just to quickly go over what the phases are, we're eventually going to have 11,000 square feet of space there. We're going to start off with 5,000, and then hopefully in the next year or two, we'll expand to another 3,000. And that's the phase two part that's represented. And I just one point of clarification. Phase 2 involves building what we refer to as a black box theater. It's a small, intimate theater setting, similar to what we have on North Mountain Road now. We expect that will hold about 100 people, and it will have a stage that we primarily use for smaller shows and for rehearsals. Craig, your report indicates that the seating is not permanent. The seating would be permanent. It wouldn't be temporary seating. But according to my math, we would need a net increase of about 15 spaces to accommodate phase 2. But it wouldn't affect the final number where the town is requiring 63 spaces because, as Craig had said, once we open the large theater in phase 3 and we have the entire 11,000 square feet, our events, so if we're going to have an event in the big theater, it won't be in the big theater and it won't be in the black box. So when it's all said and done, we're looking at a maximum still of the 63 spaces according to the regulations, at least as I understand them. And if you have questions, I can explain my logic behind that. But these phases of expansion are going to happen gradually as we are in position to raise the money to be able to do it. And up until the pandemic, we were on a really good pace to be able to do that. But things will probably be slowed a little bit as far as our ability to grow into the space and how long it takes for us to do that, just because of the financial challenges of not being able to offer regular in-person programming, which is a primary revenue source, and then also to be able to sell tickets to our shows. When we don't have shows, we can't sell tickets, so there's no box office revenue coming in too. So it's probably going to take us longer than we had hoped to eventually grow into all this space. But we have a really accommodating and reasonable landlord, making it possible for us to stay in Newington and reach our long-term goals. So we're very thankful for that. And she has really made it clear that she intends to do whatever she can do to help us achieve our goals, and if that includes making parking available. And just for the benefit of those who don't know, when we would have a large show, when the day comes where we have our larger auditorium where we're having 250 people, up to that many coming to a show, those would be on evenings or weekends. Historically, the shows are Friday nights and Saturday nights, and then matinees on the weekends. So those would be the only times where we would have that large demand for parking. When we do have daytime programming during the summer, the kids are dropped off. Some of the staff and council will be parking there, but the only real true demand for parking at the highest end would be on those weekends where we have our larger shows. Right now, we had been doing our larger shows at John Wallace Middle School because their theater had more capacity than what we had at North Mountain Road because we outgrew our space. We will continue to look for partners in the community to handle our larger shows up until we get to the point where we can accommodate the larger shows in our own space when we were able to build that out. But I think that's the extent of what I wanted to make sure I let you know. But if there are additional renderings or plans or drawings that we can furnish, then we'll be happy to do that. The one last thing I'll say is that I was in touch with the landlord today, and she had indicated previously, but while we were negotiating our lease, that she intends to have the entire parking area striped. And she told me tonight that she will have that done by September 15th, which would be well in advance of when we even come close to being able to start phase 2.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody we'll go to the public. Is there anybody from the public that would like to speak either in favor or against this application?
We do have an attendee who has raised their hand.
Okay. Hello, if you'd like to please state your name and address for the record.
You're on, Ms. LaPierre.
Hello, you could state your name and address for the record.
She must be having a problem with her microphone.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
There we are.
Yes. Hi.
Okay, sorry about that. Kathy Rossini Lapierre, 23 Saddle Hill Circle in Newington, and I am very much in favor of the theater moving to their new location.
Very good. Thank you very much. Appreciate your comments. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Nope, just a vote of 4.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much. Is there anybody else from the public that would like to speak? And if there isn't, then I would ask to see if there's any commissioners that have any questions or comments. If there's no questions from comments from the commissioners, I think this is.
Commissioner Lenars does.
Yes, Commissioner Lenars.
Hi, thank you, Chairman Payne. As I read over the comments from staff, from Craig, and looked over the specific of the specifics of phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, with everything here, I would definitely be for this. I've gone to some of these productions, having my niece years and years ago be involved in this theater group. These people are passionate. They give the theater and music children of this town an outlet to go to learn. Some have gone on that I've known other friends, kids to college with degrees that started in this exact children's theater. This is a great group. It'd be advantageous for us to welcome them to their new spot and encourage them to stay in Newington and try to keep them here as they do wonderful, wonderful things for our children of our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Lenars. I agree with you. Any other commissioners have any comments?
Commissioner Fox here.
Go ahead, Commissioner Fox.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I definitely have to agree with Commissioner Lenars. As a matter of fact, I'm going to go one better than he. I remember, my daughter taking part in the activities of the children's theater, and fairly recently, her daughter, my granddaughter, taking part in it. I think she was in two plays. One of them, Aladdin. But they were terrific, well organized, and Maria and I, just had an awful lot of fun watching them and seeing what goes on. So I heartily approve of this application.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Fox.
Commissioner Sobieski, I also agree with Commissioners Lenars and Fox. I think it's a great opportunity and a great place for the kids to expand. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other commissioners? Without any objection, I would suggest somebody make a motion to close public hearing petition 23-20 and move it to old business for action.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Fox and seconded
by Sobieski.
By Commissioner Sobieski. Any comments or questions from the other commissioners? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any objection? Passes unanimously. All right, the next thing on the agenda is the approval of minutes for June 24th, 2020.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second, Fox.
Motion made by Commissioner Sobieski and seconded by Commissioner Fox. Is there any corrections in the minutes or anything? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries to approve the minutes of June 24th, 2020. Next thing on the agenda is new business petition 24-20 zoning text amendment, section 3.22.1.c regarding commercial vehicles in residential zones. Town Planning Zone Commission applicant. Craig, if you could give us a report on this.
Yes, as some of the commissioners who've been around for a while may recall, a number of years ago, we amended the commercial vehicle regulation quite dramatically. And in fact, it got to the point where I think it's become unworkable. And so I propose a pretty drastic reduction in the verbiage, made it much simpler. Didn't change anything what's allowed or what's not allowed. Not that I was aware of, but just made it easier and clearer for everybody.
Okay.
And that's all I have unless there are any questions.
Okay, we can open it up to the commissioners. I think what I'd like to do is leave this on the agenda for a few meetings so we can go through it and make sure that we have everything. We might want to loosen it up a little bit more. I'll open it up to commissioners if they have any comments. And remember, we'll leave this open for a couple meetings so we can talk about it. Any commissioners have any questions?
Commissioner Fox.
Commissioner Fox?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through the chair, Mr. Planner, I think you did a good job, but I have only one question on the 3B. No problem with the buses, the semi-trailers, the tractors, the dump trucks. Are you proposing, should you or would you propose a limit? I mean, dump trucks range from 1 ton pickup with a dump body on it to triaxles.
Yeah.
Saying that the smaller 1 ton dump trucks or let's say a 3/4 ton dump pickup truck with a dump body on it would be prohibited.
Commissioner Fox, that was one of the things that I was most concerned about too, because I know there's a lot of smaller dump trucks from landscapers or other contractors that sometimes they have to take home. So I think this will be something that we can iron out, but I'll turn it over to Craig.
Right. Well, what we could do is currently, and I don't have it in front of me, but currently we do allow, I think maybe it's a second commercial vehicle by special permit. So maybe what we could do if the commission wants to is perhaps allow dump trucks by special permit. And then, as you all know, the commission would have the opportunity to approve or deny based on the merits of a particular request.
Sounds good.
Commissioner Payne, I have a question.
Yes, Commissioner Sobieski.
Maybe your recollection is a little better than mine. Didn't we cap this at a 5-ton Mason truck? I believe that's what we said a dump truck was allowed, 5 ton.
Yeah. Well, I think the biggest concern is that sometimes we're middle class here and we have a lot of workers here. And if somebody has for instance, somebody works for H.O. Penn and they're on call and they have to take that their truck home, that's a heavier truck with tools and stuff like that. And, you know, I think if somebody's required to take their truck home, and as long as it's not a triaxle or something, we should try to accommodate a little bit. I'd like to hear what other commissioners think, but I think that we have some instances where some people are required to take their vehicle home for work. And that would be my biggest concern is I'd hate to hurt somebody's livelihood because of the regulation.
Yeah.
Any commissioners have a comment?
Yeah, Commissioner Fox.
Go ahead, Commissioner Fox.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I agree. I don't see any reason why somebody wouldn't be able to take a truck home overnight, you know, maybe get an early start on the next day's trip to the site. And like you said, as long as it's not we're not talking about triaxles. Something that comes to mind, and I'd like to get opinions regarding when you talk about wreckers, the flatbeds. I know flatbed drivers, such as work for some of the auto body shops in town. They're on call 23.5 hours a day or whatever, and so they'll take their trucks home. What are your thoughts on that, Craig and anybody else?
I don't have an opinion on that.
Any other commissioners?
Yeah, Tom Gill.
Yes, Commissioner.
Two items as far as vehicles coming, coming home. Sometimes it's not every single night. It might be a rotation, and to have a special permit, that would be cumbersome, I think, for the people to work through. The other item is the backup alarms. That seems to be a little bit, there's a lot of equipment that has backup alarms on it. And I would venture to say that could end up into a noise complaint,
Well,
if you've got problems, with somebody, utilizing it, and it's disrupting the neighborhood, then, maybe we could address that as a noise complaint.
yeah, well, a lot of vehicles have to have that backup, and it's a safety thing and an OSHA thing. So I'd hate to have something omitted just because of backup alarm. And Craig, how's the backup alarm written in this? Now, could you explain that, please?
All right, yeah, let me go pull out the existing regulation. Hold on.
Craig, I can tell you it actually is in there. I've got it pulled up on my screen.
Commissioner Payne, while Craig is looking for that, if I remember correctly, the original mess started with a backup alarm over on Sunnyside.
Mm-hmm.
So you're basically saying any vehicle with a backup alarm is not allowed, correct?
I'm not saying, well, let me see what the original existing regulation says. Hold on.
Dominic, do you remember that Sunnyside issue?
Yeah, I do. I don't recall all the details, but I do recall that
It was
occasionally the backup alarm becomes a problem because, but
that's
not much you can do about that.
That's the reason why we had to modify it, because I think the guy was working third shift, if I'm not mistaken, on
I
the
think you're
84
right.
viaduct rather, and he was going in at I don't know, some oddball hour and coming home at 2 o'clock and 3 o'clock and 4 o'clock in the morning. When he had the backup vehicle, the alarm went off. I think that's what it was.
Okay. Did you find it, Craig?
Well, the current definition of commercial vehicle includes any vehicle that's equipped with a backup alarm is therefore by definition a commercial vehicle. The question is, does the commission want to allow something that has a backup alarm to be parked in a residential zone on a regular basis?
Well, there could be small vehicles that have backup alarms. I mean, I know that there's a passenger, if there's there's certain things that do have backup alarms.
Minivans and small cargo vans, they all have backup alarms. As a matter of fact, some of the larger passenger vehicles have backup alarms now. So what do you do about that?
Yeah, it's an OSHA safety thing, but this is something that the commission can talk about at our next meeting too. Is there any other comments from the commissioners on any other aspects of this? The objective was to try to loosen it up a little bit so that we weren't as tough on these small businesses. But we'll leave this open for our next meeting. We'll leave it on the agenda. Craig, do you have anything else you want to add?
No.
Okay. Okay, the next thing on the agenda is the Amy Berube application. If you could read that, Craig, I'd appreciate it.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I did not print her email, or that is, I don't have it in front of me. But it was a pretty conversational email. She just said it's that time of year. She would like to have her permit renewed, and that's pretty much all it said.
Okay.
There you are.
This is going to be petition what now?
Yes, this is petition.
On the screen.
2520.
2520. Okay, this is petition 2520, renewal of special permit 3417, section 3.4.4, home business at 72 Indian Hill Road, Amy Berube, owner and applicant. Craig, did you check with Andrew and on if there's been any complaints? If you could fill the commissioners on that.
Yes, I did speak to Andrew today, and he told me that he had not heard any complaints. And I went out to the neighborhood the other day and knocked on some doors, talked to a few neighbors, and none of them had any complaints.
Okay.
He's still
Very
on the
good.
call as well, Mr. Chairman.
I beg your pardon?
Mr. Armstrong is still on the call as well, if you'd like me to unmute him.
Oh, okay, yeah, sure, absolutely.
Should
Hi,
be.
Andrew.
Hey, everybody. Yeah, I have not had any complaints at all whatsoever for anything for that business.
That's good to hear. That's good to hear. Thank you very much, Andrew. Have you
welcome.
you haven't received any complaints from anything else lately? Anything major?
Nothing comes to mind, no.
Okay, well, we later on the menu, later on the agenda, we have the chicken. If you're gonna be still on, if you could comment later in the meeting, I'd appreciate it.
Okay, that sounds good.
Thank you, Andrew. All right, so commissioners, do you have any comments? This is this can be extended for 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years. If there's no objection, there's been no complaints from any of the neighbors. And I would recommend that we move this to old business for action.
Make a motion that we
So
move
move.
this to old business for 3 years.
Okay, Commissioner
Second.
Sobieski is suggesting to move this to old business. And Commissioner Fox has seconded.
All right, Tom Gallad,
Yes, Tom.
and put this as a 3-year. You know, if there's been no problems there, why have this on a yearly thing?
Correct, Commissioner Gill. And Craig, if you could go over with the commissioners, there is some protection built into this, correct?
Yes, yes. As originally approved, there were 4 conditions, and I'm recommending that those same 4 conditions be attached to it tonight.
Okay, thank you. If, I'll entertain a motion. We have a motion on the table and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries to move this to old business. And we are in old business now. We might as well take care of that first. Or do we don't have a motion for that? Craig, you have a suggested motion for that ready? Craig?
Yes, it's on the screen. Would you like me to read it?
Okay. I have one of the commissioners, Commissioner Garrett, if possible, maybe he could read it.
Petition 2520, renewal of special permit 34-17, section 3.4.4, home business at 72 Indian Hill Road, Amy Berube, owner applicant. I move to approve with conditions petition 2520, renewal of special permit 34-17, section 3.4.4, home business at 172 Indian Hill Road, Amy Berube, owner applicant. This approval shall be for 3 years and eligible for renewal in accordance with section 3.4.4.e. Should I, do you want me to read the conditions or just read them?
Yes, yeah, please read the conditions.
All right, conditions. Number 1, same conditions as presented in the motion for stipulation to judgment for docket number HHD CV 18-609-4643S. Sub 1A, the maximum number of clients' dogs allowed on the property pursuant to this home occupation permit is 5, which number does not include or limit in any way the number of dogs owned by Mrs. Berube. B, overnight stays will be limited to a maximum of 2 dogs. C, the sound of clients' dogs barking is not allowed to the extent that it becomes a nuisance, and strict protocols shall be used to ensure barking does not become a nuisance to neighbors. And D, existing fencing around the outdoor area used by the client's dog shall be maintained or replaced in a manner to be equally or more of a buffer between neighboring properties.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Commissioner Havens and seconded by Commissioner Fox. Is there any questions from the commissioners? All Commissioner Woods?
Nope.
Nope. Okay. Hearing no objection, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any objection? Okay, this motion passes unanimously. I think this was good. She has had not any complaints over there, and I'm sure she'll continue to do a good job over there. The next thing on our old business would be, we have the petition 23-20. If we could put that up on the screen. That's the Children's Theater. Or do you not have that, James?
That should be showing on the screen right now.
Okay, thank you very much. Could I have a commissioner read petition 23-20, please?
Sure, Commissioner Fox. Petition 23-20, special permit section 3.17.7, Children's Theater Organization at 136 Day Street, 136 Day Street LLC. Owner, Newington Children's Theater Company. Applicant, Christy Francisco, 255 Beacon Street, Newington, Connecticut. Contact. I move to approve with conditions petition number 23-20, special permit section 3.17.7, Children's Theater Organization at 136 Day Street. 136 Day Street LLC. Owner, Newington Children's Theater Company. Applicant, Christy Francisco, 255 Beacon Street, Newington, Connecticut. Contact. Conditions, none.
Well, okay, we have a motion made by Commissioner Fox and seconded by Commissioner Sobieski. We do have a couple of conditions that we probably should put on there that I heard from the town planner. I think one is a copy of the lease for proof of parking, and and then also striping parking spaces in the rear of the building. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct, Mr. Chairman. Both of those should be conditions.
Does the motioner allow that friendly amendment for the conditions?
Yes, I will amend the motion to include the two conditions as mentioned by Town Planner Minor.
And approved by the seconder, Commissioner Sobieski?
I approve that, yes.
Thank you. Is there any commissioners that have any questions or all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, we have petition 20-20. If we could put that up, which is the digital menu board.
Want me to do it again?
Okay, 20. Do I have a commissioner that would like to read that, or?
I'll do it again. Petition number 20-20, zoning text amendment, section 6.2.1.e and 9.2 regarding digital menu board signs. The McDonald's Real Estate Company. Owner, applicant, Chris Russo, 2507 Post Road, Southport, Connecticut. Contact. I move to approve, effective upon publication, petition number 20-20, zoning text amendment, section 6.2.1.e and 9.2 regarding digital menu board signs. The McDonald's Real Estate Company. Owner / applicant, Chris Russo, 2507 Post Road, Southport, Connecticut. Contact. Findings. 1. The zoning regulations do not currently address digital menu boards, which have become very common in other municipalities. 2. Digital menu boards expedite the ordering process by allowing the customer to make his purchase decision prior to arriving at the ordering station. 3. This amendment is not inconsistent with the plan of conservation and development. 4. This amendment has been referred to the Capital Regional Council of Governments and was deemed to present, quote, no apparent conflict with regional plans and policies or the concerns of neighboring towns, unquote.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Fox. Do I have a second?
Second. Commissioner Sobieski.
Commissioner, second from Commissioner Woods. Is there any comments or questions on this? I'll entertain, we have a motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion is approved unanimously. And I thank the McDonald's for coming in, and we'll move on to the next thing. Okay, our next petition is 10-20. Zoning text amendment, section 3.11.1. I'm sorry. Petition 10-20, zoning text amendment, section 3.11.8, 3.16.1, 3.17.8, and 9.2 regarding brewery and brew pubs. Town Planning and Zoning Commission applicant. I move to approve effective upon publication petition 10-20 zoning text amendment, section 3.11.8, 3.16.1, 3.17.8, and 9.2 regarding brewery and brew pubs. Town Planning and Zoning Commission applicant. Findings: the zoning regulations do not currently address permit breweries nor brew pub restaurants, which have become very common in other municipalities. The amendment is consistent with the business development general goals on page 35 of the Plan of Conservation and Development, encouraging the development of a wide range of retail business services and industrial sector land uses, which will strengthen and broaden Newington's tax base and employment opportunities without adversely affecting residential areas. 3, the amendment has been referred to the Capital Regional Council of Governments and was deemed to present no apparent conflict with regional plans and policies or the concerns of neighboring towns. Do I have a second on that?
Second. Even though I think we should make that public hearing.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Commissioner.
are we going
Woods.
to add in the wineries to this?
I was just going to ask the town planner where that was, and maybe he could fill us in.
Well, it's not yet. I didn't add it because we wanted to have some conversation about it. What I heard was the commission seemed like you were okay with allowing wineries in all of the business zones, just as you're about to allow brew pubs in all the business zones. I'm not sure if you wanted them to be as of right or by special permit.
Well, by special permit, exactly what we're doing with the brewery pubs, I thought, and I thought we were going to add distilleries too, or, you know.
Yes.
Is it,
Yeah,
that's,
we did. Yeah, distilleries is in the version that you have.
okay.
But if you want me to add winery, let's see. Just trying to think of procedurally how to do that.
How about if I withdraw this right now and we add it for our next meeting? Or can you make the correction now?
Let me think about it. Could we table this for the moment and let me look at it and then maybe go on to the next item?
Let me withdraw. I'm going to withdraw that motion right now, and I would ask the seconder to withdraw.
I withdraw my second.
I would think it was, okay, it was you? Okay, Commissioner Fox, thank you. And I'll let the town planner think about that. Do we have any questions from the commissioners? Why don't we, is all the commissioners in favor of adding the wineries to have this as an option as a small business. Somebody might want to rent a place that's the size of the Five and Dime, and maybe they want to create a little winery and a you know, atmosphere like that. I don't see any problems with it. Any other commissioners? Commissioner Woods, you're in favor of it, is that correct?
That is correct. I'm in favor of it.
Okay,
I don't see it any different than the brew pub or the brewery or the distillery.
thank you. Is everybody else in favor of it?
I have no problem with it.
Okay,
I guess I have no problem either.
I'm all set.
thank you, Commissioner. Okay, Craig,
Mr. Chairman, yes, then, yes, we'll add it to section 3.11, which are special permits allowed in the B zone. 3.15, special permits allowed in the Business Berlin Turnpike zone. And 3.16, I'm sorry, 17, special permits allowed in the I zone. And if you didn't hear me mention PD, that's because whatever's allowed in the BBT zone is allowed automatically in the PD zone.
okay. So do you need the next meeting to straighten this out to get it correct and write a correct version of the suggested motion?
No, I think with what I just said, I think the record will show that it was your intent to modify those those sections also.
Okay, so so I'll entertain that motion back in there. Can somebody
So
just move that motion and move petition 2020 and get a second?
Second,
Do we have I'll move the motion and we have a second, and this is going to include the wineries.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I'm sorry, could I interrupt? I think one way to make it really clear, give me a second.
Just a minute.
Okay, yep, thank you. The motion is to approve petition 10-20, zoning text amendments in sections 3.11, 3.15, 3.16, 3.17, 6.6, and 9.2. So if the maker would consider that a friendly amendment to his motion, that would cover the winery.
Thank you. Thank you, Craig. And that's a friendly motion to the seconder, correct?
yes, I seconded it.
All right. Is there any comments from the commissioners? All in favor?
Aye.
Any objection? No objection. This passes unanimously. I think this is good for the town. Thank you very much. Craig, do you want to go into your town planner's report?
Yes. Okay, the first item in my report is the status of Denning Farm. As the commission members know, that the original developer defaulted on the project, and so the performance bond money was given to the homeowners association, and they're in the process of having the road repaired. In fact, their contractor put in a call before you dig request yesterday, so that's, I think that they're scheduled to do that, yeah, July 13th, so should be next week.
Okay.
All right, next item, outdoor restaurant seating. Let's see, since the last report, we gave a permit to the Subway on the Berlin Turnpike to put some tables out in front, and I have not had any more since then. Okay, and then the third item, I just wanted to bring the commission up to date on where we are with the POCD, because we haven't talked about that in a while, so this is just a recap. And your next meeting in August, I'm sorry, your next meeting in July will be the public hearing on the POCD. So, and as of now, there will be nothing else on that agenda. Okay, performance bonds. Yes, I've been going through the list of performance bonds, old ones, Again, as some of the older commissioners may recall, we went through this back in 2014 and 15 to try to clean out a bunch of them, and we got through a lot of them, but there are still about a dozen within the last decade, but then another dozen that go all the way back to 1978. And of the ones within the past decade, I've been able to find what the status is with most of them. A number of them are things like there's a home on Waverly Drive back in 2006. When the home was built, the contractor put the parking lot or the driveway too close to the property line. As most of you know, driveways have to be 5 feet from the neighbor. Well, the contractor just put it like about 2 feet from the neighbor's property, and it was never resolved. So that's why we've been holding that $2,000. So a lot of these bonds are that kind of situation. I was just working on it today. What I'll do later or tomorrow, is I'll send the commissioners my spreadsheet with the status of the ones that are about 10 years old, and I'll let the commissioners look at it, and then I'll do some more research before your next meeting.
Okay. Commissioners' comments or questions?
Commissioner Payne, I have a question.
Certainly.
What do we do with something that old with the driveways 2 feet from the property line? We're sitting on this money. Either can we move that driveway to where it's supposed to be, or is it a moot point, and should we return the money to the contractors? That's my question.
Right. And what I'll do is I'll bring my file on that particular one. It's a long story and it's a good question. The bond was posted by the developer, but the homeowner is the one that's left holding the bag with this zoning violation. And in fact, he was cited by the ZEO a number of years ago. And at that time, the homeowner said that he was going to try to buy some land from his neighbor, but that apparently never happened. Yes, it's a question of, does the commission just want to move on and clean these things like that off the books? There's another one similar to it where a home was built and not everything that was supposed to get done got done. I'm not sure what, the record isn't clear, and we're still holding $2,000 of that person's money from not even that person anymore, because the homeowner went bankrupt and the property was taken over by the bank. So I'm not even sure who we should give that money back to. But I'll have a more detailed report for you at the next meeting with the details of all these things that I'm now just telling you about orally.
Yeah, my reason why I'm asking is some of these things may never get resolved. And why should we sit on this money if it belongs to the developer, or since in this case, if they're not going to do anything and the guy can't buy the property, this is going to just stay on there forever.
Yeah. That's why I brought it up, Commissioner Sobieski. I was still hoping to clear some of these up. As you can see, some of them date really far back, and it's almost a waste of time for Craig to look into some of the real old ones, and if we don't find anything major in them, I think that some of these we should just return to whoever posted the bonds. And if I'm not mistaken, when bonds are posted, they're posted and they have to receive interest too, don't they?
I understand the question, but I don't think that's the case in Newington. I don't think they get interest on these because I don't think we put the money in an interest-bearing account, but I can find out.
Okay, we could find that out. And any other commissioners? Commissioner Woods, what do you think we should do with some of these older ones?
I think we should try to give the money back to the rightful owners of it. Some of these, I can't believe some of these go back to 1978. Like we're holding $10,000 since 2003 on target for a mature sycamore tree to be preserved.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah. I think we need to clean this up.
Okay, I agree with you. Any other commissioners? Okay, Craig, maybe for our next meeting, you could get as much detail as you can, but I think the detail would be on these newer ones that we have, which we do have some detail now. I think some of these older ones, we're just going to make a decision if some of the people want to drive by some of them. But, look at Foxborough. I would assume the Foxborough one would have to go to the association. Is that correct, Greg?
I would agree.
Yeah, same as Horizon Hills, right? That would go to the
Yep.
association.
Yep.
The
Who's the
Alders
parking
Estate,
lot for, what's the parking lot 27 East Cedar Street?
Okay, that one I have not researched, so I don't know what the story is
Okay.
there.
Okay. And then Kimberly Development, I think that's a private development, right?
Yeah, that one I haven't done. The Zag Machine, I remember I tried to contact the owner a couple of years ago. Since then, he's died, and the property has changed hands, so I'm not even sure who to give that $4,200 to.
Okay.
Galicchio, I know what the story is there, and we can talk about that at the next
Yeah.
meeting.
But some of these old ones that can't be corrected, or they, I think the ones from like 2017, 19, and 20, we got a handle on that. But I think all these old ones, like 2009, LA Fitness, $5,000.
And I contacted him back in 2014, but I never got a response from him.
Yeah, I think maybe the commissioner is going to talk about these, and at one point, we'll just take some of these older ones, and if we have the record of who posted them, then we can check with our legal and find out if we can just send this money back to them if the commission wants to.
Right.
Why don't you check with the town attorney on some of the things that we should follow on these?
Yep.
Is that acceptable to all the commissioners?
Yeah,
Yes.
clean this up.
Yes. No problem here.
Tom Gill to Payne. If there's any way of getting some of this money that could go back into the town, and maybe get it to whoever paid for some of the cement blocks and things that we did for the restaurants, that was an expense that came from the town.
Yep, the concrete blocks actually was donated by Tilcon. They were very generous and they donated the concrete blocks to the town. And then our highway staff did an excellent job moving those blocks around to the different businesses to keep these businesses and restaurants opened up. We do have an opening balance here, Craig, right?
On which one?
We have an open balance of $4,096.59, and so it seems to me that we'll never get it down to zero. We'll have some money in this, but then I would imagine we would recommend to send it back to the general account or something. Correct?
Oh, I see. You're referring to the very first line, open
Yes.
balance, 4,000. I'll have to ask the finance department what that number is referring to.
Okay. And there possibly could be something that we just can't get a check out to somebody possibly. And then I think if there's some money left after we do this extensive research on this, that money, any other balance, anything old, or if there's an open balance, I would suspect that we would just turn it over to the council and see what they want to do with it. Anybody have any other questions on the performance bonds? For instance, I know that some of these contractors have to request one, but even that the latest one on Costello Road, isn't that a lot of money to be holding for that contractor?
Oh, yes, sure, 56,000, 66,000 is a lot of money, but, what I can do if the commission wants, when I come to the meeting next time, I can bring the breakdown as to what led up to that large number.
Okay, and then they probably have a lot of it completed, and maybe that should be inspected, and we try to get some of that money back to them.
Okay.
And then we have O'Reilly's. We just released that bond, so that's pending. And then we have the Starbucks one on Fenn Road. I know the owner hasn't come in, but there's no reason if that property gets inspected, Craig, if there's no problems, then there's no problem. There should be no problem just cutting a check and sending it back to the property owner or
Okay.
the developer.
Okay, so you want us to initiate those? Sure.
Yeah, let's initiate some of these. I know it's common that they normally request the release, but
We can do that.
okay. Thank you very much. We'll try to have that possibly on the agenda in case we have some time at our next meeting. And then I don't think there's anything else because we're going to have the POCD, right?
Well, yeah, as I say, I'm trying to keep that agenda clear of anything other than the POCD.
Okay, but if there is something real small and that can be taken care of, we could always move it to the beginning of the meeting and take care of it and then go right into the POCD.
Sure. Yeah, Chairman,
Right.
you and I can talk about that. Yep.
Okay. Okay, you have nothing else under the town planners. Is there any, we have the communication letter, Craig. If
Well,
you have that
Mr.
in
Chairman,
from-
before I go on, we do have, I think Andrew's been waiting to give us his chicken report.
Oh, thank you for reminding me. Andrew. How
Yeah,
about a report on
good.
chickens?
All right. Is everyone ready? So at the moment, our town zoning regulations prohibit chickens on residential properties of less than 5 acres. For the past 4 years or so, the TPZ has put enforcement of this regulation on hold in order to reconsider the regulation. In the past month or so, I've received a little bit of an uptick of complaints for chickens. It could be that it's due to COVID. And I will say that I don't really receive serious complaints that are contentious, causing major disputes or anything like that. Most of the time, it's just a neighbor asking, "Hey, my neighbor's chickens are kind of bothering me, and is there anything we could do about it?" And so, most of actually, in all the time I've been here, I've been able to resolve everything just between the neighbors while everything's on hold. But what's led to the recommendation is in my latest one, I really couldn't give a property owner assurance that if he moved his coop, that it would still be okay. And I felt like I was walking kind of a fine line in being able to, help and assure that we're following our regulations. So that's where I'm now recommending to TPZ that we maybe consider adopting a regulation for chickens that's clear to the public and can easily be enforced. On page 2 of this memo, I've laid out a couple of towns that are nearby, as well as some towns that are similar to Newington, not in size, but in density. And there's a couple of standards here for these different towns, what the minimum acreage is, the max number of chickens, how they permit the chickens, and setbacks or other requirements. And then on page 3 of the memo, there's a recommendation that I've just kind of based off of what I've researched off best recommendations with the state documents, what I've found through my enforcement and talking to other people. And, I realize some people will have, some extreme opinions about it. There's a lot of chickens in town already, but I feel that this commission will know what's good and works well for Newington and chickens.
Thank you, Andrew. I greatly appreciate you bringing this up. I think that it was getting difficult for you, and we did promise to relook at this. The only concern I have, and I'd ask you, is that you have it as 10 to 15 feet from a property line. Do you think that there's room with, excuse me, with our small lots in Newington where we could get a little bit more than that? And do you think we need more than that or not from the property lines?
That's something that I should probably look into and bring to the next meeting, if that's all right with the commission. Maybe do a diagram or something like that on a couple typical lots, see what that would look like, and maybe that would help everybody be able to make a decision.
Yeah, I think what we want to do
could work well. A lot of times people kind of want to have their chickens not so much in the middle of their yard. Another option could be that we could require some type of landscape or fence buffer if you think that that would certainly stop a little bit of noise.
I'm
So,
just
that's
thinking that,
something.
I'm just thinking maybe we could get a little bit more than 15 feet, without putting it in their rear yards, but at least giving a little bit more protection for the residents that abut them. If you could look into it and continue your research on it so that we can create the best possible regulation, I would ask Craig that we put this for scheduling at a later date after June 22nd when we gather all the necessary information.
Okay. And Chairman Payne, just to clarify,
Yep.
were you looking for increased setback in the rear or the side, or?
I think the rear, possibly well, let's see, the rear is 15 feet, 10 to 15 feet from any property line you have located within the rear portion of the property, 10 to 15 feet from any property line. I'll open it up to the commissioners to see if they agree whether or not we should get a little bit more distance or not, and how they feel about the whole subject. Any other commissioners?
Fox.
Yes, Commissioner Fox.
I have to agree with you, Mr. Chairman. I think we should, and please, try to get more than 10, 15 feet. And I had a thought, on that same line, if we're going to require a certain amount of property with 8,000 square feet, half an acre, that we think about abutting properties, as you said, the size of abutting properties. To try to make sure that abutting properties are about to sell are not really much smaller. I'm not
Okay,
thank you.
I'm not too sure I got that over to.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other commissioners have any comments on this?
Commissioner Sobieski, I agree with Commissioner Payne and Commissioner Fox. I think we need to go more than 15 feet.
Okay. Any other comments from commissioners? Does everybody like to see this addressed? I think Andrew really needs this addressed because he's having problems with he's having difficulty with these popping up, and one particular property, he's probably got a couple of them on limbo right now, right, Andrew?
Yeah, and like I said, they're not very serious. I just felt like I was in a situation where I say I can't provide insurance to someone that, yes, they will definitely be sick if it still becomes a persistent issue for the neighbor and they become angrier.
And then the other thing is, as long as we cover any health requirements and standards and rules. And then I noticed some towns, they also have in there that the pens have to be cleaned out weekly. So if you have a chance, Andrew, if you go through some of the other towns and we can pick apart and try to create the best regulation possible, and maybe also look at the distance from the property line, so that when we do have this on the agenda after the 22nd, we'll have some additional information. I would appreciate it.
That sounds. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're at communications now, correct, Greg?
Correct.
You want to go over this letter with the town manager? Everybody? We have, Craig, we have a letter from the town manager that he sent to Economic Development and all the boards and commissions, correct?
Correct.
The commissioners have any comments?
One, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Commissioner Woods.
Actually, I think that this commission, and I'm going to be patting all of us on the backs here, but I think we've done an excellent job in the last 2 years of expediting applications through our board as quickly as possible. Taking into all the things that we need to consider, and protecting whether it be a business, a budding business, or a budding residential property. Again, I think we're taking a new approach, and I'm glad to see that. And I think we probably could still even do a little bit more, but I think we're on the right road.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Commissioner Woods. I agree with you. Any other commissioners? I think we've been proactive. We've got the LID regulations coming up for approval. I think is that.
Yes, that'll be at your first meeting in August.
First meeting in August. Okay.
I think this is my third year on this board commission. And when I first got on, I don't know if we ever passed an application, at the first hearing. They were always pushed to the second or third. So now the rule is typically we pass them on the first night. Again, unless there's an outcry one way or the other.
Yeah, I think it's important to try to do little things like that to help the small businesses the best we can. And I would encourage our town planner and Andrew and our staff that if there's any other things in our regulations that they think that could be changed, and it could be a word instead of shall, it could be may, so that there's some flexibility to bend the rules. For instance, Commissioner Woods had a project where they had to, it was a small project and you had some outside lighting, I think. And the regulations stated that you had to have an engineer drawn from a lighting company, I think. Is that correct, Commissioner Woods?
Yes.
And so if we could change things like that, if there's a small project and you don't need a professional engineer to draft up a huge plan for something and cost a developer extra money, then I think it'll help all the small businesses and help our grand list. And we can become a town known for really having the businesses are, concerned for the businesses.
Commissioner Fox?
Yes, Commissioner Fox.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have to agree with Commissioner Woods. The big, I guess one of the biggest complaints that the developers have had about our commission is the length of time that it took to get something through. I have to admit that, in the past few years since Commissioner Woods has been on here, and me also, and the first one, we've had some kind of, shall I say, complicated applications, but still, they would be jumping through hoops. And I think, staff and the commission here, our commission has been working hard to reduce the time. And I think that, that's the key. And
Thank you.
I think right now, we see some, I like to see the commissioners chiming in quite often so that the chairman doesn't have to get a sore throat every day.
Thank you, Commissioner Fox. Thank you. Any other commissioners?
Commissioner Gill,
Yes, Commissioner Gill.
as far as the messaging boards, now does this, the action we did today, now does that change our regulations or?
Yes. Yes, that changes our regulation. And now, if I'm not mistaken, any other Dunkin' Donuts or other restaurant that has a drive-through in town could come in and change their menu boards for efficiency if they want to. Is that correct, Craig?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Okay, that's the question I had. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other questions from the commissioners?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I just want to bring the commission's attention to my memo because I do mention one specific thing that I think the commission should consider doing, which could have a very dramatic effect on how quickly and, in fact, any businesses that we get in Newington, and that's the special permit process. As I say in my memo, special permits are a problem for developers because there's the uncertainty of knowing whether your project will get approved or not, even if it's a good one. So, and a lot of towns don't require special permits for some of the things that Newington does. So that's an area that you could have a significant impact on improving Newington's business friendliness by going through the regs and looking at all the things that Newington requires a special permit for that maybe don't. And my favorite example is a restaurant. And I think I know why Newington likes to make them by special permit, but I've been here 8 years. I don't think you've ever denied a restaurant. Accessory apartments are another one. You've got a pretty good, solid accessory apartment regulation. So once someone meets the requirements, why make them go through a public hearing process, which is expensive and a delay? So there are a lot of things in your regs I think the commission should reconsider requiring by special permit. And that is something that the business community would very much appreciate.
Okay, thank you very much, Craig. Those are excellent points, and we should think about putting that on the agenda in the future, near future, to get commissioners' comments on which ones we could allow that we feel more comfortable with, and which ones could remain as a special exception if they have more concerns for. Any commissioners have any comments? Okay. We're at public participation, if anybody's still there. Anybody on, James?
We do have one individual, Mr. DeFrancisco.
Okay.
Gentlemen, I just, on behalf of the Newington Children's Theater Company, I want to thank you for your consideration of our special use permit, and also to Craig, especially for you kind of help guiding me through the process. So thank you, gentlemen. We serve more than 700 families a year in an average regular year, which this one was not. And we're looking forward to being able to continue to do that here in Newington. So thank you.
Thank you, Chris, and congratulations and on your new move. And we wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
We have one attendee who's looking to speak. I'll unmute them. Please state your name.
Hello, Dana Havens, 113 Stoddard Avenue.
Hi, Dana.
Hi. I'd like to put my 2 cents in about the chickens and say that if you're going to keep it at 10 to 15 feet, that we also add a greenery buffer, because I am speaking by personal experience that a fence is not enough to keep the stink away. And that's it.
Okay, so you think that more than 15 feet, 10 to 15 feet is needed? Do you think?
You know, it really would depend how the wind's blowing. That's why I'm thinking maybe if you require a line of bushes or something.
Yeah,
too.
there's also one town that requires them to clean the area out once a week so that it doesn't pile up. And I think that may make a difference too.
Yeah, I'm not really up on my livestock. I just know what floats over.
Yep. We will take that into consideration when we bring it up for discussion. Thank you very much for your comments.
All right, thank you.
Anybody else from the public?
Nobody else at this time.
Thank you. Any remarks from the commissioners? No remarks from the commissioners. I want to thank all the commissioners. I think the whole board has done an excellent job lately. We've been proactive, trying to make things easier. All of us have been very good on trying to approve things and move things forward and get them approved the same night. Try to make things as easy as possible for the businesses. And I think it's going to help in the long run. And I thank everybody for all that. And if there's nothing else, I'll move for adjournment.
So moved.
Motion made to adjourn. All in favor? Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Very good. Congratulations, guys. Thank you very much.
Good evening, guys.
Good night. Everybody, great day.
Yeah. Goodbye.